Hello, and welcome to your Fairy God Mentor. This is the show that inspires, encourages, educates, and supports expectant couples who desire to confidently navigate pregnancy, birth, and finding balance in an unbalanced world. I am Angie Taylor, the mother of 9 with 2 degrees in natural health. I'm also a birth insider, knowing the ins and outs of the birth industry and all of the good, the bad, and the ugly. I've worked with expectant couples since 2003 in a variety of roles, including birth educator, birth doula, home birth midwife, breastfeeding support, and life coaching. Sit back and enjoy hearing about all the things you never knew you never knew. Helen Thompson is an infant massage instructor, a childcare educator, and host of the First Time Moms Chat podcast. You can learn more about Helen by going to mybabymassage.net. Welcome to today's episode. We're going to be speaking to Helen Thompson, who is going to answer some questions for us in regards to infant massage. Why is it important? What's the significance to it? And exactly why each one of us needs to be doing it with our newborns and how to prepare them for the rest of their life. So, Helen, I'm so glad to have you here. How are things going there in Australia?
Hi, Angie. I'm delighted to be here and to support you in this beautiful podcast. I love the name of the podcast. I think it's brilliant. And thank you for having me on board. Things in Australia are pretty good. We're coming into summer, which is nice because it gets nice and warm. I guess you guys are just going into winter.
Yes, we are. We are. And there are some states that have just had some tornadoes hit. So we've got some people that are experiencing some significant damage. And so we're keeping them in our prayers and hoping that they recover from that as quickly and easily as possible. So yeah, storms can hit at any time of the year, as we all know. So one of the reasons I wanted to interview you is because I understand the significance and importance of human touch, and especially as it pertains to infants. So I'd like for you to first share with us what exactly is infant massage and how does it benefit both mom and baby?
Okay, well, let's start with what infant massage is, or baby massage. It's the same thing. Baby massage has many health and emotional benefits for your little one. It's been around for many generations. The Indian people use it, and they've used it for generations. And it's basically just gently communicating and touching your baby and always asking them permission and talking to them and telling them what you're going to do and why you're doing it, basically. So that's why touch is so important for little ones, as you know from being a midwife. It is so important, especially the first couple of months, even beyond, but especially the first couple of months, because babies love that one-on-one time with you. They love that skin-to-skin time with you. And that's why it's so important to start at a young age. Mm-hmm. So they get used to it. They know the importance of touch with their body, and they'll learn how to say no, they don't want a massage. And it's giving them that respect. And the other good thing about baby massage is that dads can do it as well. It's not just mums. Although I focus on teaching mums, but mums can then teach their dads. And dads can have that quality time with their baby, which sometimes if mum's breastfeeding, they don't have that opportunity.
Right. So one of the things that it helps a child to gain is that not just that feeling of respect, but that feeling of ownership of their own body and being able to say, no, I don't feel like having a massage today, or, jumping up and down. Because I know my kids would do this when it was bedtime, and I would put them in the middle of my bed, and they knew that it was nighttime nursing, and they would jump up and down for joy. And I know that there are infants that just love the massage time and look forward to it. So I love that it helps to acknowledge them as a human being, teaches them about their own body autonomy, that people need to ask for permission before touching you, helps them to come into themselves, I think, a little bit more. Because I know as a society, especially here in the US, we tend to lose that at some point as we're growing up. We lose that. We feel like the only time that our sweetheart is going to touch us is if they want intimacy, a sexual encounter. And not enough couples are still having that non-sexual touch, which is so vitally important for the human being. So the baby massage is a great way to start a human being on that path, positive versus negative touch. And
yes,
I just love
that's
that.
right.
I absolutely
so do
love
I,
that.
because it's giving them that love, and it's releasing that hormone oxytocin, which is what I like to call it, the cuddle hormone. I mean, it's actually the love hormone, but it's releasing that oxytocin, and it's giving them that love experience of being loved and being supported and being cared for. And to me, that's the essence. I mean, there are so many other things to say about baby massage, but to me, that's the essence. It's the magic of that, giving them that respect, as you say, and that skin on skin, and releasing that lovely oxytocin for both parents. For both, you asked about how it helps. It's for the both. It releases the oxytocin for the baby, but it also does it for the parent as well, and it supports the parent in that way, because they're feeling their baby, they're enjoying their baby, and they're because they're touching it, they're feeling, and just feeling their little feet and feeling their little legs. And as they get older, then they can feel how long the legs get, and when they're little, the legs are so short, but then when they start massaging, they get bigger. And it's just that lovely feeling of going with the baby when they're developing, and learning all about their development.
I really love that. And as you were talking about oxytocin, I was like, as the baby's head is crowning, one of the things that happens for the mom is her brain is flooded with oxytocin, so that by the time she's holding her baby, that's when that magical love hormone of oxytocin helps to attach her hormonally to her baby. And so dads don't experience that during the birthing process unless they are physically involved in that birth. And so the dads who kind of feel like they've been pushed in the corner, the baby massage is a great way for them to get attached to their child. It's also, oxytocin helps to create a sense of trust between people. And so the more that a parent and a child can have those types of interactions, the stronger their trust mechanism is in each other, which is so important for kids. Especially as they become teenagers. Can you imagine a world where every baby gets massaged and ends up having that strong trust with their parents, and what their lives would be like as teenagers, knowing that they could go and talk to mom and dad, that they could trust their parents with those deep things that happen to teenagers these days.
And also they could trust their own bodies, and know when they don't want something, and know when to say no, and be firm about it, and just sort of say no. And if somebody's pressurizing them, they can just sort of walk away and say, no, I said no, and I mean no.
Right. Which
then
I think
is good.
Right. And that gives them the opportunity to teach their peers who didn't have the benefit of baby massage, and who don't have the benefit of that trust between themselves and their parents. They can teach their peers, hey, it's okay for you to say no. It's okay for you to have complete and total autonomy and control over your body. You don't have to feel pressured into doing anything. So important. So in what ways is establishing the baby massage routines while the baby is small beneficial?
Well, if you do it before sleep, when your baby's there's a certain area of time when it's a good time to massage your baby, and that's I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's a quiet alert state. It's when your baby's just woken up, and they're just beginning to sort of stir in the day, and they're happy and they're smiley, and they're enjoying life, and they're kicking around on their mat or whatever they're doing, that's the time to actually massage it. That's the most beneficial time to massage your baby, because they're in that loving, cozy type space. Mm-hmm. And they're probably more likely to want to massage then. But if you miss that time and they go to their sort of drowsy stage, well, then you sort of miss the boat, because if they're too tired, they're not going to want it. So they've got to get that quiet, alert state. And when they're very young, I'd do it sort of about an hour, half an hour or something after a bath, because you don't want to overstimulate a small baby, because small babies, as you know, as a midwife, can be very overstimulated. But when they get a bit older, you can do it after a bath. I'm not saying you can't do it after a bath with a baby. You can, but I'd wait, for at least maybe half an hour after a bath, so they can sort of relax after the bath and the touch isn't too much, because you want to love and touch your baby, and that's really important, but you don't want to sort of massage them when they've just had a bath, because they might be overstimulated there. And also going in a moment with when they want it as well, and that's a good routine. And if you want them to sleep, which is I know babies all sleep at different stages of life, especially little ones. They don't, you won't get your baby to sleep through the night until, I don't know, I'm not going to say till when, because every baby's different,
right?
But if you start, if you give them a playtime, and then a bit of baby massage, and then put them down to sleep, that's also a good way to give them a routine to get used to it as well. And so
nice. I know when my kids were, had a very active day playing outside, and we started using essential oils, they loved to bring me, their favorite oil in the evening and have me massage their lower legs and their feet. Because they've been so active, and I'm sure that they were hurting, and, they wanted that relaxation and that touch, and then they would just go right to sleep after that. So, remembering that, as much as we as adults have aches and pains, sometimes our children do too, because they're growing.
Yes, that's right.
And they're very active. So it's very important for us to be able to hone in on that. So when you are teaching baby massage, are you focused on, the entire body? Is it just the legs? Do you teach like a type of tummy massage to help with upset tummies?
I teach it in stages. I don't teach a whole lot all at once. And that's something that's a good question, because you don't have to massage. When you're giving your baby a massage, you don't have to sit your baby down and say, right, I'm giving you a whole massage, because you don't have to do that. I always start with the legs. And the reason I start with the legs is because that's where they're used to. When I'm teaching, I always start with the legs, because that's what they're used to having touched. They're used to having their legs touched because they're having their nappy/diaper, because I know you Americans call it diaper. I've still got to get used to that. They're used to having their legs touched all the time when you lift their legs up to change your nappy, and etc. So I always start with the legs. And then, as I said, we'll do a sort of tummy one, which can help with lots of umpteen things, with digestion, relieving constipation, relieving colic, and just general gut health. And we always do that in a clockwise direction. And you can do a tummy massage. You can start with a tummy massage, or you can, if they've got colic and they're constipated, just start with tummy massage. And then we do the chest, and we do the arms, and we do the face, and then we turn them over and do the back, and we do the backs of the legs and the neck, the neck area, and but it's all done gradually. I mean, in one course, I do it over 3 sessions, for 50 minutes. So the first section is sort of split up on the front. There are sort of 2 sections on the front, and then the last session is on the back. So, and as I said, it's something that some mums say to me, oh, but do I have to massage my baby all at once? No, the answer to that is you don't. You don't have to go through the whole massage. If they don't want, if you just want to do, as I said, if you just want to do the legs or the arms or the feet, that's, like you said, that's perfectly fine. I mean, don't feel that you have to go through the whole massage, because it's always, and it's something I always stress, it's always baby led. And I want to bring back something you said earlier about essential oils. Now, I don't recommend using essential oils when you're massaging your baby, purely and simply because they're too strong for your baby. I love essential oils. I think essential oils have their place and they're very important. But for a baby, you want them to smell you. You want them to get the smell of you and the touch from you. You don't want any oils or anything to overwhelm them so they're not smelling you, because the point is you're connecting with your baby, and also they're too strong. But that's the main reason I don't suggest essential oils when you're
I'm very
doing
grateful that you came back to that, because like I have lots of moms who want to use essential oils during their birth process, and I talk to them about the downside to doing that, because babies are driven by their olfactory immediately after birth. That's how they can find mom's milk. That's why the breast crawl works. And so when there's too many additional aromas in the room, they can't find what they need to find.
Mm-hmm.
And so immediately following birth, no essential oils, not until latching has happened, the breastfeeding is well established. And yes, essential oils can have very strong aroma. And for small children, if moms or dads want to use them, they do need to be diluted because of that, because their olfactory system is kind of like on hyperdrive, because they need to be able to have that contact with mom and dad. Very important for them to be able to smell mom and dad. I'm totally with you on that. So important.
I would even say not to dilute them. I would even say not to. I mean, me as a masseur would say not even to use them until they're, I don't know, until they're sort of 5 months or even older. But that's just
my
me.
Kids,
that's what
my kids didn't experience essential oils until they were well over a year old. Unless it was something that I was using internally for like thrush, things like that. But as far as, on their skin, it was, we don't use this unless it's medicinally. It's not just to put something on them, and not just for massage. If I ever wanted to massage a younger child than that, I typically would just use a lotion, and just so that I had some kind of lubricant, so I didn't feel like I was pulling their skin. But yes, I'm glad that we got that essential oil conversation in there, because it's really important. I do find that there are some people that are using oils on children that are younger than I feel comfortable doing it. And I've been using essential oil since 2006. So, a lot of conflicting information there. But like I said, that baby comes out of birth, and they are all about smell. They need to smell mom.
Exactly.
Matter of fact, they did a study that was very interesting to me. They wanted to see how bathing the baby and bathing mom after birth impacted the baby's ability to find the breath. And it was what they discovered was the babies that were left alone and just allowed to do the breast crawl found their mother's breast about 30 minutes faster than the babies who were just separated from mom and no bath given. The babies and mothers who had baths, when the baby was brought back to them, couldn't smell her milk at all. They had
that's
to be
very interesting.
Yeah, they had to be introduced because they had a different smell in their olfactory system from the soap that was used. So it's really interesting. It's, it's like my husband is always so surprised and frustrated. And I'm not sure how the listeners are going to take this conversation, but he gets frustrated because I don't use soap when I shower. And I told him, I said, well, that's because women aren't supposed to use soap on their private areas. It dries us out. It takes the oils away. So when a mom is lactating, she should not be using soap on her breasts and nipples because it will also interfere with the breastfeeding. The baby needs to be able to smell that and not the odor from the soap. So it's just interesting how that olfactory system works in these little humans that we're bringing into the world. So what are some other ways that you know of for parents to engage positively with their babies?
I think using the senses, because when you're massaging your baby, you're always also using your senses, because as we've mentioned, smell, and there's also the important one of touch, which we've mentioned as well. But there's also, I'm just looking at my notes here to see what I can remember about the senses. There are, we've got other senses, like we've mentioned the smell, we've mentioned the touch, but we've also, when we're communicating with them and talking to them whilst we're massaging, they're actually using their hearing, because they're watching you doing the massage. So we'll bring in sight in a minute, but they're when you're talking to them and saying, right, I'm just massaging your leg, and I'm just going to go up, do certain strokes on your leg, and we do little train strokes, and you sing to them while you're massaging them, they're hearing your voice. And it's the communication with them as well. And because you're communicating with them, you're stimulating their language and also their vocabulary, and they're hearing different tones of your voice as you massage and as you say different things. So that's that one. And then the sight as well, seeing. They're actually seeing mum close up whilst you're massaging them. And I'm not very, my development on babies is very limited, but I do know that if you're very close up to a baby, they can see you more, they can focus on you more, because when they're very little, they're focused, their eyes are just beginning to develop. And if you're standing away from them, they find it a little bit hard to focus and see who you are. So if you're very close up, you're helping their sight to develop, you're helping their eyes to develop, because they can see you and they can watch you whilst you're massaging them. So I think a lot of people don't realize that, but I think that the senses are so important as well, because we've mentioned as the touch is so important, but so are the other ones, for the reasons I've said. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. When our babies are first born, the distance of their sight is from where they're cradled in their mother's arm to feed up to mom's face. That's about the distance.
Yeah, I thought, yeah.
Yeah. So that's very interesting. And that's also why I know a lot of breastfeeding moms who will do the baby massage while they're nursing. So they'll nurse one side, or they'll massage one side of the body, and then when the baby switches to the other breast, they will do the other side of the body.
Yes.
Because then it gives the baby, that really good sensation of the touch, and they're all relaxed, and they're kind of winding down. They're in and out of a sleep cycle while they're nursing. And it just makes that time that much more important. For that baby, yes. I love that the baby massage helps to prepare this human being for growing up in a society, and learning that there's positive touch and there's negative touch, and that they have permission. They have the right to give permission to people, and they have the right to expect someone to ask permission before even giving them a hug.
Yes.
It's so important for our children to learn this. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the importance of touch, not just to babies, but to us as human beings in general. Mm-hmm. So, what are your thoughts on that? How important is touch to human beings?
I think it's very important. And I think in the last couple of years, with all the social distancing, we've lost that magic touch. And as you said at the very beginning, it's important to just be able to hug somebody and to maybe just be close to somebody. without the intimacy side. That's what you said. And I think it's, I mean, even men hugging men. I mean, there's nothing wrong with a man hugging a man. I mean, and so many men are very taboo about that. They don't like hugging each other. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing wrong with that. And when you greet somebody, I think it's really important. Obviously, ask them first, mm-hmm. which I do. And if I know them, well, then I just automatically do it. But it's just give them a hug. And I think that's so important, because you've got that nice cozy feeling, and it doesn't have to be intimate. And I think a lot of people think it has to be intimate, and it doesn't. I mean, just giving somebody a rub on their back, or giving your partner a rub on your back, or even with friends, just sort of holding, just giving them a hug. I think it's so important.
Right. Well, and I know here in the United States, we've had an increase in mental health situations come up.
Oh, yes.
And I know that it stems from that lack of touch. I know that it stems from people not being sure, can I give this person a hug? And being afraid to ask, afraid that they're going to get yelled at. How could you ask at such a time like this? I have a friend on Facebook who felt very strongly about this, and her husband sat outside with signs. Hers said giving free hugs to moms, and his said giving free hugs to dads. And they were absolutely surprised by the number of people who just needed a hug. And it's because we need that touch. It's another place where oxytocin comes into play. When we hug someone for longer than 8 seconds, there's an oxytocin pulse. And the interesting thing to do right now is to hug someone for that long and then see if you feel that pulse, because I have been feeling that pulse. And it's an amazing thing when you feel it. And I warn people who want to give me a hug, well, I'm going to hold you for, probably 8 or 10 seconds, because we need to feel that oxytocin. We need to know that we are cared for. And I had shared with you previously the story of the friends of mine who were not ever able to have their own children. So they were adopting children, and they went into the country, and they got to the adoption center and were given a little girl to take to the hotel with them, simply because they didn't have enough people to hold the babies that were coming in. And they spent 3 days with this little girl and getting all of their paperwork ready, doing the interviews to adopt, knowing full well they were not going to be taking a baby home with them. But when they dropped her off at the orphanage explained to them the significance of what they had done for this little girl over those 3 days. They had no idea that there were babies dying from lack of touch.
Yes.
And that's pretty much, that's kind of what we are seeing now. We are seeing an increase in suicide, and it has to do with lack of touch. People are lonely.
So I think it is so important. I mean, even not just for the elderly too. The elderly still love to be touched. I mean, here in I don't know what the elderly homes are like in the States, but here in Australia, a lot of the elderly homes have been in lockdown, and none of their their family have been able to visit because they've been in lockdown, and so they're not getting that touch. They're not getting that oxytocin, not getting those hugs from their family, and the nursing home staff don't have the time to give it to them. So the elderly, I mean, and in generalization here, but the elderly are dying much quicker than they normally would because they're not getting that touch. And I think, well, those hugs and that loving care that they normally did get. And I think it's very, very true. And I think hopefully things with COVID and all the social distancing that we're doing, and we have to keep away from people, and it's
causing a lot of harm.
Oh, it is causing a lot of harm. And I think a lot of people don't don't realize how much harm it's actually causing.
Right.
Because everybody needs it, and everybody needs that hug, everybody needs that touch. And I'm very interested in what you shared about the orphanage, because I know you shared that with me before, and I find that story fascinating, because I'm sure that happens all over the world with babies. They just get, I mean, in the olden days, well, I say the olden days in inverted commas, but in the sort of 50s and 60s, when, you know, babies were born and they were immediately taken away from their mothers for two reasons. Either because they were taken away from their mothers to be washed and cleaned, as we mentioned before, about the smell and doing all that kind of thing. But they may have been pulled away from their mothers because they were teenagers who were having babies, and they didn't want that teenager to have that connection with their baby.
Right.
So they were pulling them away, and the dads weren't allowed in the room. You know, it was taboo. You know, dads weren't allowed in to touch their baby when they were born and see it being born, because, you know, they've said, oh, dad's getting away. And I think that's coming back in some respects with all this COVID stuff.
Yeah. It's been really hard here in the US that all of a sudden expectant couples had to choose between him being with his sweetheart or her having a doula, and discovering exactly how little they really knew and understood about the birth process and about what was about to happen to them. We've seen an increase in unassisted births. So women just saying, okay, I don't want the hospital. I don't have time to find a midwife. So we're going to figure this out and just do it at home. And if we need to, we'll go to the hospital. But there's a lot of damage being done because we're not touching, because we're not standing close together and feeling each other's energy, because we are so afraid or being told to be afraid of something that quite honestly has not killed the number of people they were predicting it would kill. So it sorrows me the number of lives we have lost, but what sorrows me more are the number of lives we have lost because we are not touching each other. The depression that is there, that people aren't talking about because they feel like it's inappropriate to talk about it, because of what's going on in the world. But touch to humans is very important. I first learned about human touch from a gentleman named Ashley Montague, and he has I believe, a book called Touching, and it's all about the significance of touch to the human being. And it's a topic of conversation that really we need to be having more of. So that's just another reason why I'm so excited about what you're doing. You're impacting the world in a way that I don't even know you fully understand. These human beings that are going to experience baby massage because you taught their parents are going to grow up and create a more loving, kind world.
Yes.
Because they have learned what it means to be loved and experience kind and happy and positive touch, and to learn that touch can be healthy without it being sexual. And it's so important. It's such an important thing that you're doing. So I really appreciate you being here for this episode. And I would like to know, do you have a course that people can sign up for? Do you have some way for them to get in contact with you and learn more about what you do and what you offer?
Yeah, I do. But I'd like to just finish on what you said about the touch. I'd like to say thank you for having me on it for that reason, but also to say that if babies are brought up more with touch now and encouraged, and parents are encouraged to touch, well, then they won't be distanced when they're older. I mean, that's something that really, that doesn't scare me, and that's going a bit strong, but I feel that it's more now than ever, it's important to have that touch connection, because we don't want our children to be brought up without that. And I think what's happening today is that's happening. You know, they are being brought up with avoiding people and not touching them. And I think, as you mentioned, that's why baby massage and other things with intimacy and other people, it's so important. I mean, I would even stress that if anybody asked me the importance of baby massage at the moment, I would say it's the touch, because that's something that we don't want to lose. And I think if we continue the way we are in this world, we're going to lose that magical touch. And I just wanted to highlight on that before I answer your other question. So
thank you. Yeah.
So yes, I do. I actually have a website called mybabymassage.net. And on that website, it's got a lot of information. It's got sort of a contact page about me. It gives you, I do Zoom courses online. And I also have an introduction course on my website as well. And I have some freebies on there too. And I'm just going to give you a link to that so that your listeners can actually go on there. And I have a few information sheets and cheat sheets that I have that people can go on to and find out more about baby massage. And they get a little cheat sheet about colic. And on the website, there's also one about baby massage routines as well. So if they go to mybabymassage.net/fairygodmentor, which is the name of your website, they will get all that information on the website, and they'll also have access to those freebies I've just mentioned.
Nice. That's exciting. Well, thank you so much, Helen, for everything that you're doing to help make our world more humane for us human beings. And one day I'm going to have to come to Australia to meet you so we can give each other a nice, long, oxytocin-producing hug.
I would love that. No, I would definitely love that. I mean, everybody I talk to, they're always welcome to come to Tassie. I mean, well, thank you, Angie. Right. I've really, really enjoyed being on your podcast, and it's been a pleasure to be here and talking to you. And I hope your listeners have found what we've had to say interesting.
Me too. Thank you again. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. To learn more about me, your fairy god mentor, simply go to angietaylorfairygodmentor.com.